Boom shakalaka. Done. We're live. Good to go. And recording. Finally, once again, live after the connections have finally started. All right. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Connections back in, back on. Finally, about time. 11-mile bike ride in the morning. Got to use up those lessons I purchased on italki. And the feeling of the Chinese people. What do you think? Oh, and a little bit more about that metaverse. Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. I'm Steven Sersky. Hope you folks are doing well. And yes, broadcasting live once again on the YouTube. Connections are doing better. I don't think it's related to fixing the internet connection yesterday because it was both connections, my phone connection and my internet, like my apartment. So it can't be just on my end. It has to be something else. So, but it's been okay so far today, and that's been good. So it's been a little bit more calm in that sense, actually able to access some things and get some things done. Now, on the other hand, the when I was signing into my Google account, it popped up here in the browser saying it wanted me to verify my account again. But it was sending messages to my phone which weren't showing up. So I'm not sure what phone number they have on record, but it was not the one that was sending messages to me here. I'm not sure. Have you guys had to do this before, where you had to verify your Google account or just check? And it probably has to do with some of the assisted connection devices that we use from time to time to access outside of our immediate environs, if you know what I mean. Meaning that the web server or like the browser might be looking at our IP address and going, don't recognize that one. Just got to check who this person is to make sure that they say who they are, right? But it seems to be working. I'm pacified. There you go. Because I'll tell you, I mean, when your work depends on the internet, when your banking depends on the internet, when posting, doing like your other outside of work, like doing all this extra stuff that I'm doing here, that depends on the internet. I mean, there's only so much time that you can spend, go do something else and wait for it to connect before eventually you're just like, if it doesn't connect, I may as well just give up, sort of thing, right? So thankfully it has connected. 11-mile bike ride in the morning. I got up finally, and in my new practice, after first snooze, I did actually get up because I realized actually at like 6:10 this morning, I guess that'd be the second snooze. Well, approaching the second snooze, I'm like, if I got up and went right now, like just got up, got dressed, and got out the door, I could be back before 7:30, and that's good because that gives me a lot of time to get ready for work and do some stretching and stuff like that. Now, I never did get around to doing my stretching. I ended up going 11 miles only because I went one street too far, and then put another mile onto my bike ride this morning. But I was out the door by 6:30 or so, and I was back by 7:30. So it was pretty good timing. We'll see if that sort of motivation and impetus carries over to tomorrow morning as well. I was kind of lethargic later on in the day. Never did do my second run, but I did some mobility instead. So, but it was good getting out there. I did a time lapse, another recording of this one, so I'll get that up eventually. And yeah, it was, at least I did the first snooze thing. I think that's the success in terms of the new breakthrough for working out, making sure that I get up and get out in a timely manner, so I'm not delaying and just wasting time. But that's good. So I got all that done. I got a message actually from italki today saying that I have to use up my language lessons with my Russian teacher. She also teaches French and Ukrainian, and I guess I could switch the classes if I really wanted to. I'm not sure if she charges differently, and I'm actually not even sure where she is anymore, if she's still in France or if she's back in Ukraine. I assume she's not back in Ukraine. But so that by the end of August, I have to use those lessons up. So I guess I'm going to have to make some time for that or say goodbye to that money. we'll probably go through with it anyway. May as well. I was asked on Friday, last Friday, what are some of the things that I'm hearing from the people that I know about this Ukraine and Russian um, invasion going on here, and I had to be honest. I'm like, I've never seen anti-Russian sentiment so high before. Like, I've tried to play the whole card. It's not all Russians, because we meet a lot of Russians here, but they're not having any of it. They're like, if they're not being arrested for protesting, then they're basically against us. Like, that's simply, it's an oversimplification of what's happening, but it is the sentiment that is there has the spike in anti-Russian sentiment amongst the Ukrainian hyphenates that I know. It's I've never seen it like this. I mean, growing up, we all sort of had this, weariness towards the Russian neighbors and whatnot, but never has it been just so, um, just like this ever, to tell you the truth. And I've got this other foreign affair articles called "Stop Tiptoeing Around Russia." It's time to end Washington's decades of deference to Moscow. And in it, I haven't gotten through the whole thing, but the first half actually talks about a speech that George H.W. Bush made in Kiev back in 1991. I think it was August 1st, 1991, in which he says, like, we don't want there to be this sort of violent nationalism, things like this, wherein, the Ukrainians are sort of taking matters into their own hands. He never vouched for the sovereignty of Ukraine itself. He kind of made some deference towards Russia and trying to keep together the Russian central governing body, if not as a Soviet Union, then at least so it didn't, spill over into like violent. What was it? Not micro, like basically crazy anarchy. They didn't want, in the wake of Soviet Union's collapse, he figured that the United States would face three different, or the administration at that time figured that there would be three major threats: proliferation of new nuclear weapons, loose nukes, sales of weapons-grade fissile material, especially to non-state actors or countries, and then conflicting loyalties in the Soviet military that might lead to civil war in the newly independent republics or in Russia itself. So this is what they were thinking. And meanwhile, I mean, Ukraine's asking to move towards the West now, has been for years, and they're still deferring to Russia in some sort of misplaced sense of, well, we don't want to step on the toes of, we don't want to do this. So, yeah, this article is basically saying, stop doing that. Solve this problem as Putin is trying to solve the problem that he has in his mind. This article is encouraging the U.S. to finally make a definitive stance on some things. And it sounds, this is actually, this is a long article, so it might take me another day or two to get through it. But this seems to be happening with another portion of the world too, that there's a push to make a definitive response. Pick a side, stop sitting on the fence. And it's not, I guess, after 1991, which to be August 24th, 1991 is when Ukraine voted for democracy, voted for becoming independent from the Soviet Union. So that was when, after 300 years of, it was 90 years since the revolt of like the Bolsheviks and everything in that made the Soviet Union back in like 1917. But prior to 1917 and 1921, like Ukraine hadn't been free, its own self-governing country for hundreds of years, since the Cossack Hetmanate in the 1600s, 17, I think it's 1660, somewhere around there. I've mentioned this before, and my date's a little hazy. I'll have to double check on that. But basically, the whole idea that Ukraine became a country in 1991 was a huge step, because it meant that they were finally becoming their own peoples once again that could be self-governing without the meddling of anybody else, which, I mean, is hasn't stopped. You can call it the Russians or the United States, the Americans or whatever, but they're still being meddled with even in their internal politics as it is today. So we'll see. Yeah, anti-Russian sentiment is rather huge, ubiquitous these days, to tell you the truth. That being the case, ran into one of my neighbors, mentioned that Chinese people themselves seem to be a little bit sulky, downtrodden. Sheng men qi, sulky. And I asked my girlfriend about this. She's like, "Yeah, that's me." I'm like, I think you're worse than that. But there seems to be this sort of they're not looking forward to work, but not in like the typical Sunday evening of like, oh, I don't want to work. I can't believe my weekend, my fun time is over already. It's more like I don't want to work because I don't see it leading anywhere, sort of thing. Like there's a sort of not a depression, but like a downtroddenness a little bit. What are you guys seeing? Are you seeing this as well in terms of your like the Chinese compadres, your Chinese friends, your Chinese friendship circles and stuff like that? Are you seeing any sort of optimism or hope or anything like that? Or is it just like they're kind of a little bit uh, sulky? They're a little bit not so peppy as they used to be, sort of thing, prior to COVID. Now, to be fair, COVID has dragged on for a lot of people for a long for a long time, and I mean the flood of the expats like leaving this country is probably a good indication as well. I wonder how many Chinese people are seeing their own compatriots leave the country either for studying, if they're emigrating, or something else. Like I don't know. Like, are they seeing something as well that's sort of affecting them emotionally, wherein they see other people making that jump, leaving, taking the opportunity to get out and setting up a new life somewhere else, even if it might not be the best life or the optimal life, but at least it's not being, every week there's a new flare up of a new variant, right? Because let's be fair, the rest of the world has sort of, they're talking about other outbreaks and stuff like that, and the monkeypox thing, which I'm not sure either, but that seems to be like COVID, as it was 2 years ago, even a year ago, seems to have tamped down substantially around the world. So I wonder if that's sort of weighing on some of the people that we know here who live here in China. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, after this neighbor mentioned it, I'm like, yeah, I guess. I mean, they might be saying some other things. I didn't think downtrodden would be the word, but now that I think of it, I think I hear people talk about their work, or whether or not they like their work, and no one really likes their job anymore. Like it's not even like the I don't like it, I'll just get through. Well, I don't like it, but or they don't really have a choice. It's basically like they would leave the job, but they can't. There's nothing much else out there that they could immediately jump to. So it's kind of like before they might not have liked their job, but they always had the option to leave. Now it's that they don't like their job, but they have no option to leave. So there's not even like oh well, I'll just stick it out for another couple of weeks. I'll keep putting my resume out there, a couple of feelers and stuff like that. But I mean, they're being worked a lot in their jobs. They're working overtime. They're working 6 days a week. I can't help but wonder, like, what's the breaking point of this? I kind of don't want to see it, to tell you the truth. I don't want to be here if this ever boils over, spills over, anything like that. I can only imagine what would happen. Um, some tensions might be because of the upcoming elections later on this year. Who knows? But yeah, downtrodden, I guess. Yeah, because they don't have that same opportunity to hop jobs if they wanted to, that they had a couple of years ago. Now it's now they're very much locked in. On that note, my Sky Miles are disappearing. Yes, I mean, what a thing to say. But Sky Miles are, I think it's Southeastern Airlines, Southeastern China Airlines. they keep on sending these messages. And I accumulated lots of travel miles before, and now they're all being taken away. They're expiring because, I mean, that's what these points clubs do. There's nothing I can do. Where am I going to go? If Sanya's getting locked down, I mean, where else am I going to fly? I've been told like Tibet is experiencing a flare up in cases as well. So I mean, it's not like I can just hop on a flight and use these points for anything. I'm a little bit disappointed, but at the same time, they didn't really do very much, to tell you the truth. I used a lot of the air miles, the Chinese air miles, for like I got an oven out of it. That was the good thing. I think I got one other thing. So that was the good thing about accumulating these miles over the travel period of my life here in China. But all those sky miles are being eroded eventually. And he talks a bit more like a salesman than anything else. Even though he is a well-respected financial guy, he writes newsletters and stuff like that, and he does a lot of research. But he's talking about the metaverse, wherein people will own the universe that they operate in, basically. And I mentioned this before, talked about how the game upgrades or the armor or whatever, the digital assets that you would buy in a game when you're 5 years old, you could carry with you indefinitely throughout the various iterations of the metaverse throughout your life, and you can keep on reselling them to anyone else who enters into that game. So basically, these games will never die. Now, that's the gamification aspect. Then he mentioned, they're talking about F1 racing. I'm like, wait a minute. F1, Formula One racing could drop a race car, like a racetrack, into the metaverse. Well, then all of a sudden, this clicks and goes, wait a minute. You got the metaverse, fully digital, based on electricity. You got Formula One, who, I mean, it's heavily location dependent, lots of money and big everything, big spending, and big loud cars. Good. But then you have a lot of these amateur drivers who are fantastic at Rad Racer, these racing games. And I'm thinking like even the Star Wars space, like the racing scenes that they had. What if the metaverse was like literally the democratization of racing games? Then you could build your own car. You could enter it into a race and you could compete. And you could be anywhere in the world to do this. I mean, there might be does it have to be in a certain location that has the computer power to generate the imagery? I don't know. Right. And this is, he was saying that no one really knows completely how this thing is going to play out. But these are some of the possible applications of the metaverse and of NFTs. So let's stretch this even further to either gamification or professional sports. What if you created your own hockey player? And keep in mind, with AI, with training, with skills development and stuff like that, you could program a character to learn, and that would build its own code. So it's learning. It's not learning so much as it's just building its own code base from which it can draw its own actions in the digital world. What if you built a hockey player or a basketball player, and now instead of it just being the NBA, it was like the ENBA. So you had all the NBA hot shots, the NHL hot shots, but now you have the professional e-gamers who are super sizing their own assets and competing in a new ENHL. So it'd be like sort of a supra professional, digital professional metaverse built on NFTs, built on the metaverse using NFTs. Yeah, so was that the vodka garlic that I had that's doing all the talking here? But yeah, so that was another idea that came to mind when I was listening to this. I'm going, too many people are talking about it for me to ignore it. How do I get involved in it? I still don't know. I understand it. They also mentioned the game engine Unity, and this game engine, actually, Unity is a 3D game world development software. It's kind of like your computer programming language times 10 sort of thing, but made for 3D digital world creation. It's video effects, but you manipulate it. and you can deploy it for other people to participate in. Unlike where Hollywood creates special effects and you just watch it, Unity, you create computer effects or games, 3D games, and not just like an app, but you can then publish it as a game, and people can bring their own Unity characters into your own world as well. So it's kind of crazy to see how this is moving forward. So can't ignore it. Is it there yet? Not just yet, but certainly something that I know I'm looking into as well. Yes, this vodka garlic. So what is this? Okay, so I was making dinner today, and I've had these things sitting in my my fridge for a while, and I was kind of afraid of opening it because I'm like, I don't want to know how bad they are, to tell you the truth. They were perfectly normal. I steeped these 2 cloves of garlic in this. I had a peanut butter jar of vodka that I made like a year ago, year and a half ago, and the vodka's gone, but the garlic was left over, and I was always like, well, I might refill it, I might reuse it. Like today, I just want to get rid of this thing already. I want to free up some room in my fridge, and I was going to throw it into the cooking today, just to get rid of it finally. So, but I'm like, you know what? I opened up the jar. They're still good. They look fine. So cut off a piece, try it. I'm like, it's garlic-ish. It tasted a bit like vodka, but I mean, there was more garlic than vodka, and certainly they were soaked, definitely soaked in soused in vodka, but they're still good. So I ate both cloves of garlic with my dinner, and that acted as my vodka shot for the evening. I don't think I'll be doing that again just anytime soon, but if you're looking for the recipe, get a plastic peanut butter jar, fill it with vodka, put some garlic cloves inside of it. That's it. Done. You can do the same thing with coffee. I tried that with coffee beans with whiskey. Same thing. Just it's like steeping, or Sichuan peppercorns. Those ones sting. Be careful with those. You because if you do the Sichuan peppercorns, when you sip that, you gotta let it steep for a week or so. You sip that, your lips and your tongue and your throat, your larynx just goes numb. It's quite the experience. All right, folks, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. I hope you guys are doing well, keeping cool. It was a very much cooler day here in Beijing, which was nice, but I think towards the end of the week, it's going to get hot once again. Show notes, tracks, and vids up on my website, stevensersky.com. Thanks for listening and for watching. We will talk again. Have a good one. Bye-bye. And we're done. Bye-bye.